And we are officially back in business. Welcome back to Magnifloss, Shrish, the channel where we talk about whatever's on our minds at the present point in time. And it's been a really long time. I think it's been like 2 months since my last upload or something. Anyways, really apologize for taking so long this time to upload. There's just been so much going on, but here we are officially back on this channel. I'm very excited for the future of this channel, especially since we can see each other in person now, so we can do a lot of collaborative, like, in-person videos together. I'm really looking forward to that Mirchi video, by the way. You guys will find out what we're talking about very soon. So a lot of cool projects coming up. And first of all, I just want to say, I mean, we graduated. That's a really big deal. And so you're officially a BS in political science, right? Because political science, so BS, correct me if I'm wrong there, and a BA in music. And I'm a BA in math, which is very weird because I don't still feel like I particularly understand a lot of math, but I guess that's just Dunning-Kruger effect and all. It's insane how vast any particular discipline can be. And I'm just really glad we both have a direction next. You're gonna do a master's in composition, I'll be doing a master's in computer graphics, and then hopefully another master's in scientific computing, and then maybe a PhD or something. I don't know, but I know that you wanted to be professors. So in about 4 to 5 years, I am going to come to your office hours. So you better be there when I arrive. And speaking of music, it was very nice to finally see you in person, where I could sort of reiterate those questions that I had about movies and music, as just as my parents were playing the Avengers inside my theater, and the loud theme was resonating all through my basement there. And I found your answers very interesting because I never really thought about it, just how brass dominated all movie and video game music typically is. And it was very insightful to think how music that doesn't necessarily need a purpose or any particular story it's trying to tell. It could just be very abstract, as you mentioned. Now, your questions about math, I never really answered those either, did I? So to be particularly honest, I don't really have an answer to either of them. The first question, or maybe it was the second question about math you had, was which subfield of math is my favorite? And to be honest, I don't really have any favorite subfield right now, because I honestly like all of them. Like, abstract algebra is awesome, analysis I'm very bad at, but it's very good, probability theory I'm very bad at, but it's also very awesome. Same thing with combinatorics. Numerical analysis is awesome, theoretical computer science is awesome, modeling and applied math is awesome. All of it's awesome, okay? All of it's fantastic. I just don't know how to pick what is the favorite one, but I'm pretty sure that in the future, as I learn more math, and you bet I'm gonna keep learning more math, we don't ever stop, boy. But the point is, in the future, I'm probably gonna have a favorite field, and I'll get back to you on that one in the next Magnifloss in like a year or so. Isn't that crazy? Like, I wonder how different our videos are gonna be in the future, or maybe they'll just stay the same, where we're just talking at the camera and just showing each other cool stuff and talking about stuff. Yeah, we'll see. Now, your second question, that has inspired kind of the biggest video project that I've ever even planned on doing, aside from the 2018 YouTube Rewind is what I was going to say, but this is even a lot bigger than that. I think I showed you the Google Docs. It's kind of like 40 pages, and it's just like gotten like 20 pages bigger ever since I even saw you. It's kind of the biggest, most ambitious projects that I've ever kind of worked on. And I don't really want to say anything too much, because if I say something, it's going to misrepresent it for what it actually is. It's kind of like a documentary, Vsauce Veritasium, musical storytelling thingy. I don't really know how to describe it at all. It's just gonna be very unique and hopefully very entertaining as well. And as I told you, I might need some of your help to critique and maybe even compose some of the music that's gonna accompany this video all throughout. So very excited. Your second question will definitely be answered in that video. So epic. Now here's something cool I wanted to show you for this video. I've been, as you probably know, learning some 3D animation from the Middlesex Community College. The course and professor are just absolutely phenomenal. The professor actually has a master's degree in painting, and now all he does is just like very technical computery stuff, which is very interesting. And he's an overall amazing guy. He actually has a vent from his computer, attached from his computer, and it exits his window, because when he's rendering like this 8K animation footage, it's just, his room just gets extremely hot, and in order to prevent himself from getting completely incinerated, he has this vent to push all the heat outside of his room. So that's very interesting. He's an awesome guy, awesome course. So I wanted to share with you a particular process that I learned in this course, and this is the process of texture mapping. This is something which I find incredibly fascinating. Basically, texture mapping is when you take any sort of texture, for example, the texture of this chair I'm sitting in, or wood or cloth, or even the human face, anything, skin, and you map it onto a 3D model. Texture mapping is typically used when the details that you want to capture on a 3D model are far too numerous to have to model them all using geometry itself. It'll just be too complicated. So the trick is to take a very detailed image, maybe of wood or any sort of texture that you want, and wrap it around the surface to make it look like it's the geometry that has all this complexity, like all these holes and crevices and dirt and whatnot. But in fact, it's actually on this 2D image, which is wrapped around the surface. So let me just show you an example. So this is a chess knight, which I modeled. It's sitting on this board here along with this pawn. It's for an animation where this knight is kind of sleeping here and this pawn is trying to sneak past. Slowly, and it goes. Oh, and the knight wakes up startled and sees that the pawn is there, and a bunch of stuff happens. So the knight here, as you can see, it doesn't have any texture on it. It's just this sort of gray, boring default material. And what you want to do is, normally a knight is, maybe a chess piece is kind of wooden, or maybe it's a bit metallic, or this base is a darker color. What you want to do is you want to attach these textures onto this geometry. So a texture, all it is, it's just a 2D image, and preferably you want to pick one that doesn't have watermarks all over it. But the problem is you just have to apply this image onto this 3D geometry. So how do we do this? The trick is to actually work backwards. We take this 3D geometry and unwrap this geometry into this 1x1 square here. And the way to achieve such an unwrapping is actually very complicated, and it's actually one of the oldest active areas of research in computer graphics, just as a math problem as well. It's a very complicated problem of surface parameterization. But I didn't do anything that complicated. All I did was you have to figure out what portions of this mesh the computer might be good at unwrapping. Because if you just click on this mesh and tell the computer to unwrap it itself, you'll get a very messy result, and that'll lead to a very bad texture map. So you essentially have to cut seams inside this model. So as you can see, I'm not sure if you can see here, maybe you can, this little white line here going through the spine of this knight piece, as well as through this sort of belly of this piece and around of the base. Those are seams, much like the seams inside a chair like this, which cut up this mesh into different portions so that the computer can unwrap each portion. So this is one portion, that's another one, and this is the third one that the computer has unfolded. So it might seem complicated, but you can actually do it in like 10 minutes once you get used to the procedure. But once you've done this is the fun part, because now you can take any one of these textures, and this is a different software now called Substance Painter. You can essentially take any one of these textures. For example, here I took a wooden one, and the wooden texture, remember, is just an image which is this big, and the software is only colored in the portions which correspond to this 3D unwrapping. And these are precisely the portions of the image, remember, that get mapped onto the 3D model. And it looks absolutely fantastic. Look at the amount of detail that gets added via texture mapping. And this software is very advanced. You can do lots of different things, like add many different layers. And over here you can see I added sort of a glossy layer on top of this wooden smart material here. And the possibility is kind of endless. You can put like fingerprint marks, like apparently I have this one on my screen. You can do a little 3D paint job onto your mesh, and it's just a lot of fun. But the key here is this 3D unwrapping, which is one of the oldest problems in computer graphics. And quite serendipitously, while I was learning how to do this UV stuff, texture mapping stuff in my 3D animation class, my professor that I'm doing research with in computer graphics this summer, my first research project, actually recommended for me to look into this area of graphics and see if I wanted to work on a project in that area. And I've been reading into some of the computer science stuff that goes into this, and it's very fascinating, and that deserves its own video. So my project will probably be in this area, so very exciting. And that ought to wrap it up for this video. See what I did there? And this video is long enough already, so Shrish, I'll see you next week or tomorrow.